If you're looking for some of the best cell phone plans in Alberta, BC, or Ontario, Shaw actually has some of the most competitive options out there, especially if you're like a lot of people nowadays and working from home. Shaw's entrance into the mobile space was a disruptor, and it did help drive competitive offers from others in the market. But some big news just dropped. Rogers signed a $26 billion deal to buy Shaw. Let's take a look at what's in this deal and how it could shape the cellular market again. Rogers is already a well-established player in the mobile space, so why would they want to buy out a relative newcomer, Shaw? Let's go through the highlights of this deal. The $26 billion price tag would include taking on Shaw's debt, but buying Shaw would give Rogers the number 2 position in terms of cellular and cable operator, jumping ahead of TELUS and being behind only the market leader, which is Bell. As part of the transaction, Rogers said that it would further develop 5G infrastructure in Western Canada to the tune of $2.5 billion over the next 5 years. Rogers also said that it's going to be creating a $1 billion fund to help connect rural, indigenous, and remote areas with high-speed internet. The deal requires shareholder approval, and it's expected to close in the first half of 2022. And this deal is contingent on approvals from Canadian regulators, but more on that in a bit. Okay, so it's pretty easy to see what is likely Rogers' driver for this deal. By acquiring Shaw, they can quickly overtake TELUS and become the second largest cell provider in Canada and close the gap between themselves and Bell. But what does this mean for consumers? If you've watched some of my previous videos, you know that I was a Freedom Mobile customer for 2 years, and I've since switched over to their parent company, Shaw, or Shaw Mobile. Look above for my take on the Shaw Mobile experience, and if you want to see my full Freedom Mobile review, I'll leave that in the description below. While I don't think their network is perfect, and I can tell you that it's not for everyone, I do think that they've been moving in a good direction. For the right person, Shaw's value for dollar is practically unparalleled. Now, don't get me wrong, I never expected these deals, especially their $0 phone plan, to last forever. But their pricing was creating disruption in the market, and we were seeing some positive reaction from their competitors. If you've lived in Canada for any amount of time, you know that we have notoriously high cell phone bills, and nobody's really able to give a solid reason why that has to be the case. So having more competition in the market is a good thing. Rogers has said that it won't be raising prices for Shaw or Freedom customers for at least 3 years. If this is true, I do feel like it probably would have been about the same time frame as we would have seen some kind of pricing scheme change from Shaw Freedom, since the consumer base would have built up by that point. But again, they're asking for a lot of trust on this because in reality, who's holding them accountable to this? Again, I'm skeptical. Interestingly, both companies have actually stated in their press releases that this acquisition will benefit consumers and actually create greater competition in the market. But considering in March of last year, the federal government had to threaten the top 3 Canadian carriers with regulatory action if they didn't cut prices in their mid-range wireless plans by 25% within 2 years, I'm just not convinced that losing a competitor will help to drive competitive pricing. These companies don't seem to be willing to provide reasonable pricing without holding their feet to the fire. To me, it feels like we're getting back to pre-1993. There's a lot of interesting history here with telecommunications in Canada, but the short of it in this case is that prior to 1993, telecoms were treated as a utility. So companies like Bell and TELUS had a straight up monopoly on all telecommunications services. In 1993, the government deregulated telecommunications in an effort to create competition, lower prices for consumers, and get enterprises to innovate and invest in infrastructure. I'm not going to dive into a big history lesson here in this video, but if you want to learn more about the history of the internet in Canada, let me know in the comments, and if enough people are interested, I'll be happy to make a video. So when deregulation happened, the Canadian Radio, Television and Communications Commission, or the CRTC, was created to help even out the playing field for new competition coming up against the incumbents. And these are the folks who need to sign off on the deal before it can be made official. Basically, they'll review the deal and kibosh anything that they don't think is in the best interests of consumers. Sometimes their efforts backfire a bit, but they try. If the CRTC doesn't like the deal, they can tell the companies that they have to divest certain parts of the company or go back to the drawing board. With that said, this particular deal looks like it was written with the CRTC's mandates and agenda strategically in mind. Furthering 5G internet infrastructure in Western Canada, creating a $1 billion fund to connect rural, remote, and Indigenous communities in Western Canada, and closing the digital divide. These are all things that the CRTC is working towards. I'm just not convinced that we won't see prices sliding higher and higher once the competition in the mobile market is narrowed again. The fact that the PM has had to threaten regulation in an effort to get mobile services into a reasonable price range is a pretty clear indicator that we have a strong oligopoly in the Canadian mobile market. And if Rogers is successful in buying out Shaw, it will underscore that reality. For now, all we can do is wait and see how this plays out. To stay up to date, throw a like on the video and click that subscribe button. I post new videos every single Friday. Thanks for watching Technology Paul, and we'll see you in the next one.